Mohammad Al Abdallah is the director of Syria Justice and Accountability Centre and is also a former political prisoner in Syria. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mohammad, for joining us. First off, let's start with these prisoners. Who are these prisoners exactly that have been released from Hama prison, and why is the Hama prison notorious?
Thanks for having me. Those prisoners are a mix of everything, basically. Hama prison, like Aleppo prison, is a central detention facility where the government keeps the regular detainees, the inmates, the criminal prisoners, but also the government used it to put a lot of political detainees in these detention facilities. The government used the tactic of revolving doors, of transferring detainees from places to places, which is in an effort to make tracing of detainees difficult for families, and in the effort to keep hiding those disappeared people, enforcedly disappeared people. From Hama prison, at least 80 of the people were released, 80 were political detainees, belong to activism, being dissidents, being activists, being media contributors, or local civil society leaders. In Aleppo, there's one notable case from Aleppo prison of a prisoner, Abdullah Kubba. His name is very well known now for Syrians, who spent 33 years in prison, transferred from Sadnaya prison to several detention facilities, and ended up being in Aleppo prison when the rebels opened the door and let him out.
So you say 33 years in prison, and as we mentioned earlier, they're 40 years in prison. These are large numbers of years. And talk to us, this didn't just start with Bashar al-Assad. This goes way back to even his father. I mean, certainly when you look back to the 1980s, he also was accused of his government of torture and mass killings. Are those some of those prisoners from that time? Were they in prison then?
Absolutely. This is absolutely true. Hafiz al-Assad, the father of the current president, Bashar al-Assad, employed the same tactics of disappearing a lot of people, detaining people for a very prolonged period of time, a lot of times without trials or with basically mock trials or kangaroo courts. Basically, a lot of those detainees who ended up in the 80s in prison, a lot of them disappeared. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch estimate 17,000 Syrians disappeared between 82 and 95, and those never came back. There's no news about their fate, and their loved ones just accepted the reality that they were killed in Assad detention facilities. Assad's uncle, Rifat al-Assad, the uncle of the current president, led himself execution of at least 1,000 prisoners in Tadmor, Palmyra prison in 1981 or 82 in response of an assassination attempt to Hafiz al-Assad, the president there. Some of those detainees have been recycled from those years up till to date, and some are new, belong to the uprising and belong to Bashar al-Assad, Assad the son.
And of course, 1982 was the Hama siege. Now, could you talk to us about your experience, not just as a political prisoner, but as an advocate trying to get justice for the Syrians, for their families, for the victims, and also for the survivors?
Yeah, this is very, very challenging and emotional file. I met my father in Sadnaya military prison in 2006. He was in the prison when I was in prison there. And then later we learned my brother was in the same prison. And this story is very similar to hundreds and thousands of families in Syria. Their stories are similar. A lot of people disappeared. A lot of people, there's no information about them. The government deliberately made tracing of detainees and knowing their whereabouts impossible. That employed a tactic of extortion because it's a cash cow for the government. They take bribes from the families and give them fake information. As of today, one incident already reported that his family received information he was died, recorded dead. He's alive. He was freed from Hama prison. And the government played these tactics, not putting people on a trial, not allowing their families to visit them, employing tactics of disappearing them. And of course, we've heard all of the notorious military detention facility in Sadnaya, and we all heard about the Caesar photos, those people who died under torture in the Syrian intelligence facilities, and they were dumped later in mass graves. We've seen the photos smuggled by the military photographer who defected from the Syrian military police. The Syrian government and the Syrian family, the Assad family, is known for one thing for the Syrians: the fear of disappearing them in detention facilities.
Okay, you're talking
Torture
about
is one of the cornerstones. Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about torture and obviously fear of disappearances, but also it's not just the Syrian government that's been accused by whether it's Amnesty or the UN of carrying out atrocities or human rights abuses, because also a lot of the other groups that were operating, certainly in the last few years, have also been accused of similar crimes. But I wanted to ask you specifically about the International Criminal Court, the ICC, that doesn't seem to have jurisdiction over Syria, which isn't signed to the Rome Statute of the ICC. So what does that mean when it comes to accountability on the international stage?
Indeed, for both questions, the answer is yes. Armed groups from the opposition, from the Syrian Democratic Forces, the Kurdish forces, and also from ISIS contributed to disappearing Syrians, torturing them, sometimes death under torture in custody, a lot of cases of detention and political detainees from all sides. And we document all sides of the conflict and we contribute this information. And also, indeed, the ICC has no jurisdiction in Syria because Syria did not sign the Rome Statute when it was introduced in 2003, 2004. And attempt in 2014 to refer Syria to the ICC through the Security Council was double vetoed by Russia and China. That means the ICC cannot practice its jurisdiction over Syria, and that's leaving us only with national courts in Europe using what's known a universal jurisdiction principle that allows national courts in Germany or Belgium or France or Sweden
I think in
to put on
Switzerland
trial
as well.
some former officials, Switzerland, Spain, UK, that allows them to put officials who committed crimes back in Syria, put them on trial in Europe in this case, in these courts. The condition here is actually clearly they have to be in European soil and we can obtain custody of them, the accused. There's one famous case already happened in Syria, the case in Koblenz, the trial in Germany for Anwar Raslan, the former head of the State Security Intelligence Investigation Branch. He got a lifetime prison in Germany for war crimes and crimes against humanity he committed or aided and abetted when he was the head of the intelligence investigation branch in the State Security Intelligence in Damascus. Now there's the case for what's known the torture doctor, the doctor who tortured people in Tishreen Hospital, Ala facing trial in Frankfurt in Germany as well, using a similar principle, universal jurisdiction. Unfortunately, without ICC involvement, you cannot chase heads of states. And you cannot chase ministers. And that's where Assad enjoying his kind of a functioning immunity for now.
Okay, so going over after individuals, specifically when they touch down on European soil. Thank you very much, Mohammad Al Abdallah, for explaining all of that to us, Director of Syria Justice and Accountability Centre.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.